Welcome to Booking It. I'm Juliet, and I'm a Hufflepuff. Okay, today I'm talking about 6 books that I think of as Hufflepuff books. To me, a Hufflepuff book is one that values loyalty, and I think part of that is having really strong friendships in the books. And so usually these books are very character-based. Not all of them are. I have a lot of fantasy here, which have a lot of good plot. So I'm just gonna get into it. So the first one I have is middle grade. It is Keeper of the Lost Cities by Shannon Messenger. This book follows Sophie, who lives in our world, and she grew up being this like massive prodigy. She's been great at everything she's ever done, and she can even read people's minds. And so, you know, life has always just been really easy. And then one day when she's on a field trip, she runs into this guy. And she realizes she can't read his mind, and he tells her that she's actually an elf, and she goes into this, she goes into a different world, and she goes to an elf school, and she realizes that she's really bad at something, and she has to learn how to be bad at things. And because of that, she has to work really hard, and she has to persevere through those difficulties, which I think is a really good message. Sophie also makes a lot of really great friends, and she has to make a lot of sacrifices for those friends and for the family that she's known her entire life. And because of that, I think The Keeper of the Lost City is a really great Hufflepuff book. Okay, the next book you might disagree, but you're wrong. The next book I have is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. I think this one is a really great Hufflepuff book. The friendship between Gimli and Legolas is so beautiful and so strong. The sacrifices that Frodo has to make. Mild spoilers for the end of this book, but at the end, Frodo realizes that his presence with the ring is negatively affecting all his friends, and so he does what he's been terrified to do for the entire book, and he goes out by himself. He sacrifices, and I don't know about sacrifices, but he is able to face his fear because he wants his friends to be safe, and I think that's a huge Hufflepuff quality, so I think the series as a Hufflepuff book. Isn't that right? Okay, so the next book is a classic, and I actually think it's very similar to The Fellowship of the Ring, and not in the story sense, but it has a very similar ambiance. And that is Watership Down by Richard Adams. This follows a group of bunnies, and it's actually my favorite book of all time. So Hazel and Fiver leave their group that they've known their entire life because Hazel trusts Fiver, and Fiver believes that something terrible is going to happen. And so Hazel and Fiver travel with a small group of rabbits. They travel across these like vast lands to find a new home, and they have to overcome a lot of difficulties, and they're able to do that because they're together, because they can rely on all the strengths of their group of friends. There's a lot of trust between these characters, which is kind of silly because it's a book about rabbits, but it has a lot of dark messages in it, and it has a lot of notes about courage and bravery, and normally those would be thought of as Gryffindor traits, but I think being courageous for the sake of your friends and being able to have that courage because you trust your friends is a Hufflepuff quality. And so I think of this book as a Hufflepuff book. Okay, the next one I have another fantasy book. It is a bind-up called Theft of Swords by Michael J. Sullivan. Okay, the friendship between Royce and Hadrian is so cute. It reminds me a lot of, it kind of reminds me of Gimli and Legolas. Theirs is more of like a hate to love friendship, and this, you just always know them as friends, and they're so close, and they have each other's backs at every single moment. They're two thieves, and they sign up for a job, last minute job, and they actually get framed for murder for the king of the realm. So so these two friends are on the run, and they have to try and clear their name, and it's a really fun story. It's not as difficult to read as a lot of adult fantasy, and I think it's a really good way to start if you are looking to get into adult fantasy. Another book I have is the Winnie the Pooh collection. I don't think I have to say a lot about this one. Everyone knows about Winnie the Pooh. Also, it's yellow. This book just really struck me as a Hufflepuff book. It's a classic, classic children's story. It's sweet. I love Pooh Bear. I love Pooh Bear. I love all his little friends and the 100-Acre Woods. This book is just sweet, and it's cute, and the friendships are so pure. Okay, the next book, I have a lot of fantasy. I had some classics. The last book, I'm going to end with a contemporary. Save the Date by Morgan Matson. And so I think all of Morgan Matson's could be classified as a Hufflepuff book because they're all very sweet and cute. I don't read a lot of contemporary, so this is the one I chose. And Save the Date, you're following this young girl named Charlie, and Charlie's sister is getting married, I believe. And so it's all like things that are going wrong before the wedding, and so she's having to like figure that out. The story focuses on like a family dynamics. And I think of the romance as more of a subplot, which isn't very normal for contemporaries. But I think the bonds between Charlie and her family are so strong and so cute. I highly recommend it. I know I didn't give a big summary, but just trust me, it's adorable. I don't think the romance is as strong as most of the other Morgan Matson books, but this one's my favorite because of the family elements to it. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching. I don't know. Have fun. That's good, I guess. And I'm a Hufflepuff. Boom! And this is it! That was embarrassing.